Cool. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this webinar today from Quba. So we're talking about the EU Accessibility Act, or the EAA, which is quite difficult to say. And what does it mean for airports and how they deal with accessibility, etc. So what we're going to go through today. So before we actually go into the Act, it is worth talking about what we mean by accessibility, because if we don't have some kind of baseline, then it doesn't really make much sense. So we're just going to go through what accessibility means at a top level. We're then going to talk about what the actual European Accessibility Act is and what it means for businesses in general. And then we'll talk about what that means for airports specifically. And then we'll look at some tools and solutions that we can use to solve the problems that this causes. And then any questions that you want while we're on the webinar, stick them in the box, and then we can look at them at the end. That's me and Amy. So yeah, that's me. I'm technical director at Quba, and I've got a good friend Amy, who's head of UX and design. So we'll be tag teaming through this presentation with different bits. So I'll just kick off with what do we actually mean by accessibility and what is it? So it's basically allowing people to view a website or any sort of media in a way where they can see it properly when they may have disabilities or some way that they can't normally access things. So I've not got a disability, but I have got colour blindness, and very often I find things difficult to read. So I might use tools to help me with that. But some people have obviously got more severe disabilities and they need help with that to be able to see things. So it's making that content available to them in a way that they can then view it. There are specific guidelines to this. So the Web Consortium, which is a organization that defines standards for the web, have the WCAG, which is basically accessibility guidelines that they specify. The current version is 2.2, but as you'll see in a minute, this act is only for 2.1. It basically defines a load of things that a website or any kind of media should adhere to enable them to be accessible. Within that, you've got the A, AA, and AAA standards, and it's basically there's different things within that that you adhere to make you one of those different levels of standard. A is really low, so A is not accessible at all. To be honest, that is really like if you don't care about accessibility, do A. Double A is sort of like the baseline. That's what people generally go for. Triple A is quite limiting. A lot of government websites will go for that, or in healthcare, but that really limits the design that you can do. So double A is really what we're at. And that's where the act is at. So if you can see the fourth point there, the standard or the European Act is going for AA, not AAA. And it's actually based on an older version. It's based on the 2.1 standard. 2.2 was released in 2023. It has 9 more things in it, but they aren't actually required for this standard. So when does this come into play? It actually comes into play in June. It's nothing new in terms of the accessibility that you need, or there's no new things. It's the standards that are already there. The difference now is it basically you can get fined if you don't adhere to them. It's for all companies that are operating in or selling to the EU. So even if you're a UK-based company, if you have customers or you're marketing to customers in the EU, then you are within this act. It's also if you are over 10 employees and over 2 million euros in turnover. So not tiny companies, but this will affect the majority of companies. The issue is that if you don't adhere to these standards, then you can get fines. So there's an initial fine of anywhere between 5,000 and 20,000 euros. But then if you don't fix it, they can just keep fining you 1,000 a day. How will this actually work? There's not going to be a team that's going out checking every website. It's similar to when the cookie standard came in, or the email standard. It's not, they're not going to be actively doing this, but you can be reported. So if someone that's got a disability is looking at your website or media or whatever it is, and they really struggle with it, they can report you for that. And then it would go to the court, and then it would be decided. So it's worth doing, purely well, not only for the fine that you may get, but actually morally, it's something that you should really do. Pass over to Amy now. Yeah, pause bit.
Hello. So there are 16 million disabled people just in the UK alone, and we hear all sorts of stories about airline passengers with assisted travel needs experience stress and issues throughout their journey. But airlines and airports do have great support systems in place to ensure that all passengers are able to have a positive and inclusive experience. As a result of this, airports are seeing an influx of travellers with assisted needs now because the experience is being improved continually. But as a result, that influx is meaning that some airports are being overwhelmed, particularly if they have existing infrastructure works in place. So they're having to constantly keep up with that. But of course, there is a financial impact of enabling an inclusive experience, or in fact, designing a disabling one. So it's kind of works both ways. So the purple pound, which is the sort of spending power of disabled households in the UK, is estimated to be worth around 274 billion a year, and that's across all industries. But obviously within airports and the aviation sector, that covers retail, it covers infrastructure, travel, tourism. It spans quite a lot of different sectors. So there's an awful lot of opportunity to improve and create an inclusive experience. And all airports working together will create a combined, improved experience. So this combined innovation and research that is taking place across a lot of airports in the UK will help everybody combined. So you can jump to the next slide now, Ben, please. And this is a great example of sort of where some of those things fall down. So this is Addy, and I recently watched this video provided by AbilityNet, who are an accessibility organisation who provides support and resources to drive improved accessible digital experiences for everybody. And this example shows how, unless implemented effectively, users can be prevented from navigating digital touchpoints properly. And in this instance, this is shown by a screen reader. So I'm just going to play this video and then we'll move on.
So I'm blind and I use a regular iPhone, and I have this thing called VoiceOver which is turned on, and when that's turned on, when I touch the screen, it talks really fast and reads to me what I'm touching. You see, as a person who's blind, I need to know when something's a button or a link or a text, so that will inform whether I can click on it or not. In theory, I can buy flights, I can book cinema tickets, I can order my own taxis. Most of the times, because of the way an app has been designed, as someone who's blind using VoiceOver, I'm not able to complete a task. It takes away my independence, and also it makes me go and use a different app or a different service provider. First thing I've been announced is Bath 3 speed mark. I'm not sure what that means. Book a flight, perfect. Let's click on that. Book a flight. So I'm just using these cool gestures. I just swipe to the right, it takes me to the next element. Okay, I've got lots of buttons. As you can hear, it's announcing button. We might be getting somewhere. It's announcing some text. Okay, I think I found the fields where I enter the text. So far, it's been quite confusing, this process. So let me see if I can change Berlin to Barcelona. Okay, we're trying to get to Barcelona. Wow, so many airports in the world. God, going through all those buttons again.
So you can see how not building an inclusive experience for everyone is going to lead to drop off and possibly loss of revenue for some of those services on offer at an airport. And you can go to the next slide, Ben. And this shows all of those touch points that can be affected. So you can start to see kind of the different areas throughout the customer journey, the passenger journey, when they purchase a flight, through to booking, potentially parking. They are transacting online, they are engaging with the airport, they are engaging with the brand, which builds advocacy. If there is a positive, accessible experience there, it will be kind of a word of mouth thing. So there's a social proof in the customer service. If that is reliable, people will feel that they trust the experience at that airport and they will return. So there is a retention element. If there is good support through security and check-in desks, again, it all feeds into the kind of the robust experience that somebody is receiving. And again, with airline apps and flight feeds in the airport, all of these strengthen the experience. Every single touch point counts as an accessible experience for the user. Next slide, please.
Well, I was just going to say on this slide as well, where this really ties into as well now is now we've seen a lot of Mac-based and headless technology. You've got one source of content being pushed out to all these channels, haven't you, Amy? And it's worth thinking about that each channel might have a different challenge. So it really ties into where the technology is going, I think, in terms of headless technology. So we've got other webinars on that, so we can we can refer to those in another time.
And here are just some examples of kind of ways of enabling that experience. So all of these areas really, and all of these examples are underpinned by the WCAG principles. So anything that has to be perceivable, so any hidden content must be made visible to people with sensory loss, such as sight or sound. So it must be made visible via alt text so that they can screen read or they can tab through a website, closed captions or audio description. The website needs to be operable. So again, users need to be able to navigate through keyboard touch. Content needs to be understandable in plain language, reading flow, etc. No complex layouts that will hinder that. Understandable and robust. Again, screen readers, like the previous example, screen readers are obviously where that can kind of come unstuck. But ensuring that accessible multimedia is available. So, and that can be any form of content across your site, not just sort of passenger assistance and passenger help, but also kind of some of the downloadables as well. Making sure that you're using the right screen reader and making sure that it's implemented so that it can work through the sort of the semantic list of content on the page. Color contrast is always a really important one in terms of brand application, wayfinding, and just general look and feel. Consistent navigation and reduced screen movement mean that the passenger and the user of the digital touch point is getting a sort of a robust, consistent experience. So the navigation is the same on every page. When they land on a page, the animation or the movement or the loading of the page doesn't disrupt or disturb their experience at all. And obviously mobile usage, we know that mobile actually have a really good set of assisted technologies that people with accessibility requirements can then lean on, and they bake them into their everyday.
Cool, thanks, Amy. So yeah, Amy's touched on some examples of issues that you might come across. So how do you actually find them and solve them? What do you do? So really the first thing is actually to find what issues you've got, which you would need to do an audit for. So it's worth saying that there are some tools out there that can do like an automated test of your site, and they will profess to be able to find all the issues. That isn't strictly true. So normally an automated tool, although they're great, they would only normally find about 40% of the issues on the site. And that's because a lot of the issues are sort of more intangible, the things that Amy's talked about, the contrast things. A robot cannot always find those things. So an audit really needs to be done in conjunction with a human person doing it alongside a tool. So an audit is the first place to start, which would then give you a list of all the things on your site or whatever touch point it is that need fixing and the severity of those. You'd then be able to engage your development partner or whoever you wish to fix those issues. A great tool to put on the site. It doesn't necessarily make the score of your site more accessible, or greater, but it does increase the accessibility of the site. And the options is Recite Me. There are other tools available. I'm actually a Recite Me partner, an ambassador. I think it's a great tool. It's basically a toolbar that sits on the site, lets you translate it on the fly, change the colors, things like that. So allowing someone to have a tool on the site that they can use to change it on the fly is great. Creating in an airport, actually using the mapping around the airport to help people out. So we've seen examples where airports are using the map to show those touch points or the areas where maybe you need assisted travel needs. Where is that on the map? So physical mapping, but also digital mapping, also mapping that on the phone. So if you've got wayfinding, using that. So all those kind of things in an airport can be used to help people. And that really ties in with the custom support for those with assisted travel needs, so that those people in that group, they need different requirements. So using all the things that we've talked about, helping them get through the airport easier, whether that's before they even get to the airport, when they're at the airport, on the plane, etc. Whatever tool they're using, whatever touch point they're engaging with, help them use that. So that's kind of at the end of this. I'm just going to check if anyone has asked questions. I'm just going to stop sharing. No, we're only stop sharing. I can carry on. So first question, let's have a look. From a digital and marketing perspective, what is the actual real perceived risk of non-compliance? Is it reputational, legal, or both, or other? I guess. Amy, I can pass that over to you.
Yeah, I can pick that up. So I mean, it is both. Obviously, they brought these standards in so that there is a uniformity across all of the EU or anybody that does business in the EU. There is so that legal element is there to enforce it. You should be doing it anyway, really. And a lot of the things that kind of are in the sort of guidance for this are things that you're probably already doing. It's just ensuring that some of those are a bit more robust or a bit more kind of enforced. So, but also as a brand, from the brand sort of point of view, like if you're perceived to be prioritizing accessibility and perceived to be, well, kind of designing an inclusive experience, and that improves your brand reputation, right? So, yeah, definitely both. I would say the latter, legal, is just making sure that people are behaving properly, and then the sort of reputational element is really more of a, like as Ben said at the start, like a moral. You should just be doing it, basically. So, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think if you come at it from the angle of not wanting to get fined, that's probably the wrong way of looking at it.
Yeah.
But if you look at it as like, I want to make it better for people, and then you won't get fined, that's you're doing both ways. So I think that's the way. What other questions have we got? Um, for airports that have got multiple websites and obviously loads of digital touch points, where should the accessibility efforts begin? I think I can take that because I think I've really already answered that in the fact of an audit. So really you need to map out all of your touch points, which Amy is great at doing, finding all the touch points in a environment, and then each one audit it and see what's working, what isn't. Like I said, use a combination of human and robots to do the job, find all the issues, grade them, work through them. So that's really the starting point. And then you can work with whoever you work with to fix those issues. Because I imagine if you've got multiple touch points, you've got maybe multiple teams working on each one. So getting a list of everything to begin with, that's where you should start. What other questions have we got? What's the one thing digital leaders should start doing now to stay ahead of the 2025 deadline? Probably both got thoughts on that, Amy. Have you got a thought on that one?
Yeah, well, I mean, as you said, well, I think once you've kind of assessed where along your sort of entire ecosystem, digital space, you're needing to kind of address, it's then kind of working your way through the checklist, isn't it? There are plenty of resources available online, but I think the audits that we've been running and the checklist that we work through just ensures that there is a very thorough kind of approach to that. right? So, and it's in the kind of visual aspect, the look and feel, but also in the kind of markup and the code element of it. And then a lot of the content, really ensuring that everything that you've kind of got available for people to find, there are things in place to make that visible to everybody with every different need, I guess.
Yeah, totally. I totally agree with that. I think one other thing you can do as well is you can check what the current usage of your touch points is from people with different disabilities. So a lot of tools, for example, if you're using Google Analytics or Tag Manager, you'll be able to check the user agent, and you'll be able to see if people are already using screen readers on your site, and you'll be able to work up a demographic and work out maybe which part of their site or your site they're struggling with. Like Clarity is another great tool that you can use, which actually I've just swapped another question, which I'm answering already, so I can link this, is which tools or platforms provide most useful for automated testing and ongoing monitoring. So I've just mentioned a couple there, is actually that's tracking tools. So like Clarity from Microsoft and Google Analytics are great as well. Actual for getting sort of accessibility issues listed out, so specific. There's things like Power Mapper or Browser Stack now do it as well. So you can do that. I think SolarWinds, which we use Pingdom, I think you can do that as well. So that's great. I think automated testing is a bit of a misnomer because, like I said, you do need a human factor as well. So you can catch part of it, but it's more about maybe scheduling a manual test as well. So there's like tons of tools out there that you can use now, and we've used quite a few, haven't we, Amy? So there's loads. I think that's all the questions, unless you can see any more, Amy. I think that's all of them, unless you can see. Cool. All right, I will go on to the last slide. Yeah, so thank you for attending this. Thank you, Amy, for joining me on this and your input. The QR code there, if you want to find out more about accessibility, there's some stuff on our website about that. And obviously, if you just want to chat to us, get in touch, you can contact me or Amy directly, talk about anything about that. It's a really big topic and we're really invested in it. So yeah, thanks again, and we'll see you on the next one.